Hello everyone, welcome to Canadian Boxing Hub. Welcome to any new subscribers, and thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Special shout out to Joe Stunner Boxing for giving me a little call out and hopefully bringing some folks to the page so we can chat boxing. Today I'm going to be diving into a list. Now, a couple of days ago, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch. I made a video about my top 10 prospects. I'll just quickly run through that list to highlight some of the names. Now, I've got Italma, Jalalov, Hooney, Taramoana Jr., Torres Jr., Barriere, Adalai, Pero, Nowitzki, and Aliev. Now, I thought what would be interesting today is to run through an exercise where we pick the ideal fight for each guy next. Now, I made this list to kind of think about the guys that are at, fringe world level, see who's breaking through. Now, some of these are highly touted prospects that have been pushed by the major promoters, some not so much, and I'd like to see all these guys take that next step in their next few fights. Now, some of these guys do have fights. For instance, I've got listed here David Adalai at number 7 of my heavyweight prospects. He's going to be fighting Jamie TKV on that April 5th card, which was supposed to be headlined by Joe Joyce v. Dillian White. Of course, White's pulled out, been replaced by Hrgovic. Co-main in that has also fallen off with Lawrence Okoli. Whatever. That's off. So we've got David Adalai against Jamie TKV. I think that's a great matchup. I hear that's going to be for the vacant British. So we'll see what comes of that. I do have Adalai my favorite in that. I do think he's going to come through. Who else here? We've got Taramoana Jr. against the highly touted TBD next. So I'm sure he's going to be against a absolute journeyman, which is a shame. Would have been nice to get him some decent opposition because I don't see the point in moving this guy slowly. He's got knockout power. He's big, he's rangy, he's awkward. He's going to take all these guys out in short order. We need to see him in a bit of a step up, so it's too bad that he's going to be fighting a late opponent. I think he's quite good. I've got him ranked at my number 4. Now, we've also got Torres Jr., who I've got ranked at 5. He's in soon. I believe it's April 12th. He's in against Guido Villanello, who I think that's a great fight, great step up. Top Rank has not been kind to Guido Villanello. They have absolutely thrown him in against tough opposition from about the time they put him in with Kingsley eBay, I'd say. He's had a tough go of it. I think that's a good fight for Torres, and it'll give us a real establishment of if Torres is going to be moving on to world level next. So I'm going to start from my number 10 of the guys remaining and work from my way up here. So I've got Murad Aliev. I'd like to see him fighting Tony Yoka. A couple choices for Yoka here. I think he's obviously had some turbulence ever since he's got off the PEDs, allegedly. We've got a few losses. He seems to not be able to put guys away quite the same. Aliev is, another European name. He's a tricky boxer. I think this would be an interesting matchup to distinguish where Aliev really is and if he's actually going to be a contender. If he loses to Yoka, if it's a tough affair, a draw, whatever, I think he's a European level fighter. But if he can beat Yoka handily, he moves on to world level. Andre Nowitzki at number 9, I'd love to see him fighting Arslanbek Makhmudov. Makhmudov, of course, has been kind of found out at the world level recently, but he's still a formidable gatekeeper, let's call him. He's got limited skill, but he's got absolute bludgeoning power. He puts it on guys. He doesn't know any other way. So he's always going to be a good measuring stick of where guys are at. For Lenier Pero, I think this guy's really good. He's a big, tricky southpaw, big amateur background. He's got a lot of early finishes. I want to see him in the deep end. If they're going to build him in the Americas, and if anyone wants to put any backing behind him, now, these are all ideal matchups. I'm not saying these are going to work. We all know how fickle it is in boxing, but I'd love to see Pero against a guy of the ilk of Ruiz Jr. Where with Andy Ruiz's, with his inactivity, I think these guys are on a fairly equal plane, and it would be nice for him to get a scalp like that. Now, of course, I had Adelaide, who I've touched on. Number 6, I've got my Canadian heavyweight, Alexis Barriere, and I'd like to see him against a tough American. You know, if we're really shooting for the stars, I think you could put him in with a Jermaine Franklin. He might be a couple fights off from that realistically with the profile that Franklin's got off some big fights in the past. So what might be more realistic, but I think another good test is Jonathan Goudry. Goudry is not the biggest heavyweight, but he is game. He comes to fight. He's tough. He's got a chin. He can ship some punishment and stay in there. So he's another good measuring stick. So I'd like to see Barriere go and beat one of those Americans, but maybe that's some misdirected anger I'm projecting there right now. Anyways, we've talked about Torres Jr. He's in against Vianello, great fight. Then we've got Tara Moana Jr. being promoted by Matchroom in what seems to be a nothing fight just to run him out, keep him active, and keep him on some of these popular cards. Number 3, I've got Justice Huni. Now, he's fought at a higher level, of course. He's fought Kevin Lorena. I'd love to see him and Jarrell Miller. These are 2 high-output guys. Of course, I had Andy Ruiz Jr. lower. If Ruiz Jr. and Jarrell Miller aren't going to be fighting anyone else soon, I'd like to see them rematch their fight from last August. If they're not going to rematch, let's move on, keep fighting. Jarrell Miller and Justice Huni, I think, would be a great fight, and Miller is serving as this kind of upper echelon gatekeeper. I think that'd be a good fight. Number 2, I've got Bakadir Jalilov. Now, I want to see him in a serious step up. He is way better than the opposition he's been fighting, and he's getting much too old to be messing around. He might over-ripen on the vine here if he goes too long. So I'd love to see him fight an Efe Ajagba. Now that Ajagba's not fighting Martin Piccoli, maybe he still is. Maybe they're still fighting, but it's not for the mandatory. Whatever's happening there, I'd like to see him in with that ilk of a guy. If not Ajagba, a guy like a Frank Sanchez, I think, is a really good opposition. We need to see Jalilov tested, shit or bust, shit or get off the pot. I think it's time to go for Jalilov and seriously step it up. Then I've got my number 1 prospect. No surprise to anyone here. I've got Moses Atalma, the number 1 heavyweight prospect, under 15 fights. I want to see him as well in the deep end. I think he's much too good for anyone out of the absolute upper echelon, so why not throw him in there with anyone? I'd love to see him against a Agit Kabayel. I don't think that's going to happen, but they are both in the Queensbury stable. So is everyone right now, but nonetheless, I think Italma versus Kabayel is an incredible fight. Kabayel's been on incredible form, and if Italma could beat him, he would have everyone's respect and be viewed as one of the top 3-4 heavyweights in the world. I think what's more realistic is that we're going to see him in a stadium fight this summer against like a Derek Chisora. If Dillian White's finger heals and he's going to be back in late summer, I could see Atalma against White. I think they're going to give him one of these names to build his profile off of guys that are over the hill, a little bit of a torch passing, but guys who ultimately I don't think will give him much resistance. So Chisora or White, if I had to put my money on it, it's probably going to be one of those guys, but I'd love to see him against the best in the division. I'd love to see Kabayel. Let me know what you guys think. Who would you have in with these prospects? I know there's consideration to be done to build these guys, but these are all guys I view to be on the edge of world level, and let's start seeing them in some real fights. So let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. I'll talk to you guys next time.